Welcome back to America's Forum. I'm J.D. Hayworth. Midterm elections only 7 months away. Polls show Republicans with a chance to hold on to the House and a chance to take back the Senate. Democrats seem to have helped the GOP in their election efforts with the gift that keeps on giving, specifically Obamacare. Despite the president's victory lap the other night, the law still has many critics to try and win over, among them Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal, who's proposed an alternative to the health care law. So will Obamacare feature prominently in midterm elections, or will the GOP shift its focus to other issues such as national security and foreign policy? Back on the set here at Newsmax TV South Florida, pleased to have John Bachman here, Ed Berliner here, and we are also pleased to have join us from way out west our good friend Michael Reagan. Michael, welcome to America's Forum.
Good to be with you.
Now, Michael, before we get to the national implications of what may happen in the House and Senate, just have to ask you about California. Your dad, a half century ago, revitalized the Republican Party, winning the governorship. Is there any way today, Michael, in 2014, that California Republicans can regain the governor's mansion and get a foothold back in Sacramento?
Not at all. There's not a chance for a Republican to win the governorship away from Jerry Brown in 2014. That's why I'm all over this state every week. I've been out fundraising at the local level so that we can take back the assembly in this state, take back the state senate in this state. We found a new way to defeat Democrats in California. We can't beat them at the ballot box, so we indict them later on and send them to jail.
Well, you're referring, of course, to State Senator Leland Yee, and this is almost like the plot of a movie. Leland Yee, a guy worried about weapons, but allegedly involved in bribes to get weapons in the hands of bad guys, including erstwhile terrorists, with what we're hearing there. That's another subject for another day, and we want to have you back to talk about what has been transpiring in California. But let's broaden the picture now. As you look beyond the boundaries of California to the national midterms, what is your take on the Republican Party? Is it a lead pipe cinch the GOP will retake the Senate?
No, there's no lead pipe cinch that they'll retake the Senate of the United States. The problem here is, are we going to try to destroy the party on the way to taking on the Senate of the United States of America? And I think we need to concentrate on winning the Senate instead of concentrating on beating each other at the ballot box. And that's what we need to do. The Republican Party needs to have a message of inclusion, not a message of exclusion. It needs to be liked. Ronald Reagan won because Ronald Reagan was liked. He had a message of inclusion within the party. And we don't have that really anymore within this party. And there's too much infighting going on in the party. There's too many people trying to find the perfect candidate, the perfect this, the perfect that. And the reality of it is, if Ronald Reagan were to run today in the United States of America, or even for governor of California, there's a good chance that there would be an argument about him becoming governor or president, and it would come from the right. It would not come from the left.
Michael, this is Ed Berliner. Thanks for joining us here today. And you just said something. The Republican Party and the Republicans need to be liked. All right, I'm going to hit right on that one because that's always one of my favorite issues here. How then do the Republicans become liked? Because quite frankly, there are people who say that they are constantly shooting themselves in the foot, constantly fighting each other. We have a media machine at many times that people say is working against them on a 24/7 basis. So what's the answer? It's got to be a few simple steps.
Well, the reality of it is, the media machine working against Republicans 24/7 isn't only coming from the left, it's also coming from the right. You have a party in the United States of America, back in Washington, D.C., that's fearful of doing anything because they don't know what Sean is going to be saying about them the next day. They don't know what Mark Levin's going to be saying about them the next day. They don't know what Rush is going to be saying about them the next day. And so they're frozen in time on what to do. Everybody on the planet knows you need an immigration policy, but everybody's afraid to put one forward because they do not know what the big three are going to say about it in talk radio the next day. The Republican Party needs to find its own message and take the message away from talk radio and others.
Okay, so what then are the Michael Reagan steps, 1, 2, or 3, whatever you want to throw in here, to pour some hot water on this ice, thaw it out, and at least get the Republican media to start being friends with the Republicans?
Well, understand that, liberals are led by ideology. Conservatives are always looking for a leader. And conservatives are all over the map. You've got social conservatives, you've got economic conservatives. I mean, go down the line of all the conservatives. Quit looking for the perfect candidate and do the Ronald Reagan rule. Do the 80-20 rule. You're not going to agree with somebody 100% of the time, but my God, don't throw them under the bus. Chris Christie wins in New Jersey, and we throw him under the bus. We should be saying, what did you do to get 51% of the Hispanic vote? What did you do to get the female vote? What did you do to get the majority vote to get you 60%? But instead, we try to blame the last election and the fact that Barack Obama won because Christie put his arms around him after Hurricane Sandy wiped out his state. That's what he's supposed to do. We also took Jeb Bush. We also took Marco Rubio when they tried to come up with an immigration policy and threw them under the bus. The reality of it is we don't have such a large party that we can find ways to throw people off the bus. We need to bring people onto the bus. And you know something else? When I go speak to Republican groups, have some Hispanics in the room. I spoke to one group in Florida, by the way, 2 years ago in Florida, and I asked all the blacks and all the Hispanics to stand in the room. And you know something? The only ones standing were serving breakfast to a bunch of white Republicans who don't even know how to use a smartphone.
Not smart.
You better get in the 21st century, and you better do it fast.
Well, Michael, you talked a lot about conservatives and getting the party to coalesce around a candidate or some issues and not fight so much. But what about the Reagan Democrats who have gone to Obama in the last 2 elections? The factory workers, the blue-collar workers who your father was able to court, who had traditionally had voted for Democrats. What can the party do to reach out to those people? Because we know the base is one side of this, but the swing voters, the independent voters, the party has to appeal to them. What's the easiest way to do that?
Because Ronald Reagan did exactly what Suzanne Martinez did in New Mexico to win the governorship. They went to people, they weren't afraid to go into black areas and weren't afraid to go into Hispanic areas that weren't predominantly Republican areas but Democrat, and talked about shared values. They found issues that they agreed on instead of starting the conversation in areas where they always disagreed. And they talked about shared values. People voted for Ronald Reagan. Those Reagan Democrats voted for Ronald Reagan because they liked him. And he included them at the front end of the conversation, not at the back end of the conversation. When he walked into a room, he wanted to meet and greet everybody in the room. Everybody was his best friend. Mitt Romney, nice guy, great governor, but the reality of it is he was looking for the back door when he walked in the front door. You can't do that. You have got to like the people that you're around. And when you talk about consultants, the consultants around my father, of which I was one, the consultants around my father were believers in Ronald Reagan. Today, the consultants are only believers in the checkbook that they're going to handle and the money they're going to make. They could give a damn about the candidate that they're helping.
Michael Reagan, we appreciate your words of wisdom and how to win friends and influence people the Ronald Reagan way for the resurgence of the Republican Party. It's great to have you with us, my friend. We look forward to our next visit with you here on America's Forum.
You got it. Thank you, JD.
It is always good to hear from Michael. And, we're going to work to get him to come out of his shell next time.
He really needs to tell us how he thinks sometimes.
It's
really
great. It is very good to hear from him. And we want you to weigh in on the discussion, too. What did you think about what Michael Reagan had to say? Well, we've got social media. You can get to us at Twitter, at Newsmax TV, #AmericasForum.